Thanks for listening to the Swearing In podcast, where you'll hear the origin stories of those who chose to serve. So ground your gear, take a seat, and listen up. The Swearing In podcast starts right now.
Hello and welcome to all my brothers and sisters in service. I am Marty Smith, and this is the Swearing In Podcast. Today is part 4 of my interview with General Petty. We discuss his time as a NATO commander in Bosnia. In 2015, he was moved to his next assignment at the National Guard Bureau in Arlington, Virginia, as a special assistant to the director. After only a year at the National Guard Bureau, he took an assignment at the Pentagon as a Deputy Director of Operations for the DAMO-OD, which is the Department of the Army Management Office, Operations and Contingency Plans Division, on the regular Army staff. His next assignment was to USNorthcom at Peterson Air Force Base, Colorado, as the Deputy Director of Operations. General Petty retired in 2018. Now this concludes your pre-brief, so let's get on with the interview. We're back with General Chris Petty. Thanks, sir.
You're not tired of me yet?
No way. We got about 7 more episodes planned. So,
okay.
So when we left off, we were talking about your time over in NATO, and I was curious about that because you started to allude to some of the landmines you got to kind of traverse. First off, tell the who's listening, what did the normal people who never worked in NATO, what do we not know about NATO?
I think I alluded to this last time, but I'll try to make it even more clear this time. NATO is a very powerful, important alliance. I mean, I totally support America's involvement in NATO. I really do. But it comes with a lot of cumbersome political complexities because, as I said last time, there was 28 NATO countries when I was a NATO commander. Yeah. Now I think it's 30, something like that. I don't follow it every day, but sure. I think it's 30. But anyway, I'll speak from my experience.
I think during our recent times now with the news, I don't think many people knew about NATO. I'll tell you one thing: I didn't know about NATO until Trump started talking about funding of NATO.
Yeah. A lot of people.
I was like, what? They're not given?
It's an afterthought for Americans because Americans aren't used to depending on others for our defense.
Sure.
For the majority of Europe, NATO is the big kid on the block, a required aspect of their defense.
Right.
Absolutely required. So they talk about NATO. They care about NATO.
Okay.
For America, it's kind of like, we are NATO. So we get a little cocky about that. It's natural. But my point was, one of the biggest things that Americans don't understand about NATO, besides the fact that they just don't pay a lot of attention to it for the reasons we just talked about, is it's complicated. It's this political alliance that is really, really powerful, lots of capability, lots of goodwill between these 28 at the time. Now I'm just going to say 30 countries, but they've all signed this treaty, the Mutual Defense, Article 5, but it's cumbersome. And so, as I was alluding to last time, I know is, you come at this as an American Army officer and you're all about maximizing your initiative within commander's intent, right?
Sure.
That kind of rings a bell to you.
It's easy, yeah.
As an officer, you're like, I get innovative, I'll solve problems, I'll expand my boundaries as much as I can as an officer. As long as I'm operating in my commander's intent guidelines, I'm good. That's not the case in NATO. It's very defined by your remit, by your document, your charter that says, in my specific instance, the Bosnian mission headquarters NATO Sarajevo in Bosnia, we had a specific mission which was focused on defense reform, almost like, as I mentioned, sort of like a big consulting firm. You know, you want to join NATO, you need to bring up your standards in this, and this. Like, let's look at your logistics system. Okay, get rid of this corruption, create these checks and balances, blah, blah, blah. Oh, you want to build a training system. Because if you want to be a part of NATO, you need to abide by these types of training regimen requirements, et cetera, et cetera. So that's what the headquarters mission was. I'm not going to stray outside of that exact mission parameter and get creative.
Well,
because I'll get my hands slapped.
Right.
I'll get my hands slapped because I don't have the authority, because maybe one country didn't like that idea, and so they didn't vote for that idea. So it's all very politically woven into a pretty constrictive mission set, for lack of a better term.
May I ask, how did you learn that? Did you have an officer from Germany that said, "Hey, sir, take a step, back. Maybe you should slow down"? Or were you just kind of observing?
I kind of learned it the hard way, like you started with.
Yeah.
Because again, I come from this culture of, hey, I've read my mission statement. I mean, I know what we're here to do. Let's get to it. But you got to be careful. So I sort of got my hand slapped by my boss in Naples, Italy.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, not a bad way. I mean, he didn't embarrass me or anything. But you know, he knew I was new to NATO, and so you know, I think he brought me in because I had to go to Naples to visit my higher headquarters every 2 months, every 3 months. Just a quick trip to Naples, check in, how we doing, or you know, what do they expect? That reports, all the stuff that we got to do. I'd take 1 or 2 staff officers with me every time just to see the staff and, you know, grease the wheels and all that. But one of the trips early on was kind of like, "Hey, Petty, what are you doing? You know, I got word that you're doing this." I'm like, "Yes, sir. Are we supposed to?" "No, you need to." And then he kind of gave me the spiel.
Okay, so that's what it came
it's
from.
like,
All
the light bulb went on. It's like, okay, this is really by the letter of the the NATO mission statement. The I's are dotted, the T's are crossed, because again, at the time, 28 member nations agreed to this.
Sure.
Specifically, Chris Petty doesn't get to change that.
You don't get one general like, "We're doing it this way."
No matter how good your idea is. So it was all good. It was a good learning point.
Yeah.
But I got it, and then I was a little more cautious. But you're not going to get creative in NATO. Slow, burdensome. Mm-hmm. You know, it's not going to move on a dime. But boy, if a war breaks out, you want that power of that alliance.
Yeah.
Beside you, behind you, and with you. There's no question about it.
Yeah, just on paper, it's formidable.
It's formidable.
Yeah.
Could you imagine if you're Vladimir Putin and you're really staring down 28 nations with their full combined armies?
Yeah, and they don't necessarily have a choice whether to play or not.
That's right.
So.
That's right. Article 5 is a big deal. You know, we evoked it for the first time in Afghanistan. And it,
really?
And it worked.
I didn't realize
yeah.
it. Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
And they contributed. That's why it was a NATO operation.
Yeah.
So, it was interesting. Wow. Fascinating assignment.
Wow.
Yeah.
What, any highlights from there?
I think the highlights were creating a more effective program. I do think we did that because, you know, the NATO mission that I inherited had been running for, in its current form, it had been running for probably, just ballpark, 12 years.
All right.
12 different commanders popping in and out, a full-time staff that gets pretty accustomed to doing things the way they like to do things. And I told you last time, I'm not an inertia guy. I want to kind of break it up and change it and look at it and say, are we still, open up the hood? Say, are we really still measuring the things we're supposed to?
Right.
Are we really accomplishing the mission? So I think we kind of realigned a lot of the things we did in that headquarters. Oh. So I'm really proud of that, actually. And I got, there was always resistance because, inertia is there for a reason. People are comfortable. So I got some resistance, but in the end, everyone was pretty happy with it. So I thought that was a win. We did a lot of good things with the country and their training programs, and we did one of the first ever deployments of a support team between the United States and Bosnian soldiers
Oh, wow.
to Afghanistan.
Wow.
You know, that was a result of some of the work we did in just, creating interoperability for real, and that was fulfilling. So, there was a lot of good stuff.
Interestingly enough, a couple weeks ago, they're talking about Bosnia kicking back up again. I don't know if you heard or something to that effect.
Well, Serbia.
Is that what it was?
Yeah, Serbia is kind of a little hotbed right now, and it's
okay.
been for a while because it's all related to the same thing. In that
Right.
region of the world, you've got this, 800-year-old conflict that's still frozen in time, never really got to fight itself out like old wars used to do. So it's just kind of frozen with the Serbian tensions and the but the Orthodox Christian faith and the Serbian nationalism, even inside of Bosnia. And then you get the Muslim element that's now the Kosovo dynamic between Serbians and Kosovars in Kosovo. Yeah. They're now divided. And then, of course, that spills into Bosnia, too.
There's a lot of those all over the world.
There's a lot of them all over the world. But this one is, and I'm sure we talked about this last time, this is truly one of the places in the world, and I've never seen one like this. And there are some. I just haven't been there physically. But you could literally see the 800 years of conflict. Just like, this is where these three, picture this big map with arrows, right?
Yeah.
And the three arrows of Islam and the Austro-Hungarian Christianity and the Orthodox Russian Serbian influence, they just crash right there. Oh, and it's 800 years old.
Yeah.
This isn't like just World War I and the breakout of World War I in the streets of Sarajevo.
Right.
It was there before that. I mean, it's amazing.
That's crazy.
And you can just feel it right there in that little portion of the world.
And because it's so old, there's so much that they won't let go of, so much that they can't get past.
So much.
Wow.
Yeah, so I mean, it's powerful, palpable, powerful, and it's just not going to go away. That's what the Kosovo issue right now that you just highlighted. It's ongoing.
Yeah, and I saw that pop up right before the Israel thing happened. So I was like, oh, geez, we got
that's right.
Many more commitments now. So
we sure do. So anyway, Bosnia was great. Really enjoyed it. Fantastic first assignment for a young.
Did you get to come home during that year?
My wife came over to visit me twice.
She? Probably better.
She came over twice, and she was able to spend 5 weeks.
Oh wow!
On
That's
one
great.
of them, so we actually got to see some things together. It was fun. It was really cool to share that with her,
especially all the old history that's there.
It was so nice. We really had a good time. I'm so glad we could do that. Yeah.
So you get orders to go. Do the other countries' NATO assigned officers rotate out like we do, or do they spend longer times there?
Depends on the country. Really, it depends on the country. Every country has different policies with their officers and rotations, etc. And normally NATO assignments aren't just 1 year, and I'm not sure why Bosnia was just 1 year for this position, but that's just the way it is.
Yeah.
So I think most of the assignments are 2 years.
Oh,
but mine was 1 year, and it was normal. 1 year was the rotation on this one.
Okay.
Again, I'm not sure why.
So you were about to retire.
I was about to retire.
They promoted you and sent you over to Bosnia.
I said, how would you like to go to this strange part of the world?
So now you're a year past that proposed retirement date, and you get orders to where?
So I'm coming back to the National Guard Bureau. So the headquarters of the National Guard.
In Colorado?
Nope, it's in D.C.
Oh, wow, the all National Guard.
Yeah, this is it's known as NGB, National Guard Bureau. It is the headquarters of all the National Guard. Now, it's not a command and control headquarters, as you can imagine. Kind of like the Pentagon is not a command and control headquarters.
Right.
This is the National Guard's version of the Pentagon. It's got its own director of the Army Guard, who's a 3-star.
Were you in the Pentagon?
No. Well, I was back and forth, but in this job, I was in the National Guard Bureau in Arlington. So there's their own headquarters building in Arlington.
Yeah.
Really close to the Pentagon. So you shuttle back and forth for all these meetings because you're always working with the Army.
Right.
In fact, that's really what the whole assignment is about, and I'll explain. But so I'm in Arlington. really close to the Pentagon, like literally 2 miles from the Pentagon is this building. And yeah, it's the headquarters of the Army National Guard. So there's, there's a regular Army staff,
Yeah.
a 1 through 8, 9, a 1 through 9.
What did you do?
I was in the G3. Now, actually, I was the special assistant to the director.
Yeah.
So I was General Cadavy at the time. Tim Cadavy was the Army 3-star. So he's in charge of the Army Guard across the 54 states and territories, and administrative coordination, logistics, financial support. He doesn't control,
No.
but he just he disperses the resources and which units are going to deploy. So I mean, it's pretty important.
Does he have to go to the Hill and fight for money?
Yeah, so that's what the job really becomes, and I'll try to explain it because it's interesting. So I go to the National Guard Bureau headquarters, again in Arlington. I'm the special assistant to the director. So I am General Cadavy's general officer to primarily go to the Pentagon to represent the Army Guard at all kinds of various Pentagon meetings about resources and manning levels and readiness and mobilizations. And so it was kind of a whirlwind for me because I understand mobilizing, I understand training, I understand the basics, but I don't understand how I'm thrown into an arena with the Army and I'm competing. I'm presenting proposals to the Army because the Army and the Army National Guard are very complementary, but always in competition.
Absolutely.
Always in competition for resources, dollars, manning.
Right.
Always. And it's always an internal battle, and yet it's waged in a very gentlemanly way because we're a total force.
Yeah.
We rely on them, obviously. They're the active duty Army, and they definitely rely on the National Guard.
They do.
Because the National Guard is now half the fighting force.
It is.
I mean, it's amazing how it's changed over time. Part of it goes back to things like the article I talked to you about, the cost effectiveness of the Guard.
Right.
So anyway, so now I'm in this arena of I represent the Army Guard for my 3-star. He can't be at all the meetings, right?
Yeah.
A lot of the meetings are 1-star meetings and 2-star meetings. GOSCs, General Officer Steering Committee. Lots of GOSCs.
Steering Committee.
Lots of GOSCs all over the Pentagon. Every day there's a few GOSCs. So I'm going to these different GOSC meetings and staff meetings, and most of it is with the Army G3 because I'm in the Guard, kind of in that lane of operations, training, readiness, force structure stuff for the Guard. I'm not the budget guy. I'm not the manning guy.
Right. I'm
the training, resourcing, mobilization, ops guy. It's always been who I am. So this is good. I like it. But I'm going to the Pentagon every day, sometimes twice a day, for different meetings with the Army staff to represent the Guard. Yeah. And I mean, I could never run out of things to talk to you about in terms of subject matter.
Sure.
Because it's just everything under the sun. And the hard thing for me is, I usually like to know what I'm talking about, like really know it.
Yeah.
Growing up in the Army, you were a commander at that level, and man, you knew training readiness, you knew collective training, you knew training management, you knew your logistics, right? You knew what you had to know as a commander.
Right.
Right? You knew it inside and out. Now I'm at this level. You can't know all this stuff, and there's no crash course to understand everything like the way the Army talks about force structure issues and how that compares to the Guard. And now I'm in the arena trying to compete for force structure issues. So I always felt at a little bit of a disadvantage. Always.
Yeah, that's uncomfortable.
Yeah. And I tried to get spooled up as quick as I could, but every day is a different kind of meeting. So it was a little bit frustrating, actually.
And nobody can really sit you down and take the time.
They can't. And I got pre-briefed from the colonels and their staff because, the G3 on General Cadavy's staff, his G3, it's got all the institutional knowledge and all the depth of research.
Right.
But you know what? You can't send a colonel to the general officer meeting. It's still the way it is. Nobody will listen to him. You have to send a general.
Yeah.
So the colonels get the generals all spooled up on the information, and we go into the meetings where the colonels know more about the stuff than we do.
Right.
But you got to be a general to be at this meeting, and that's unfortunate, but that's the way the game is played.
Well, maybe it wasn't so bad because the other people were or the other generals were just as much of a disadvantage as you were.
It just makes you laugh a little bit. It's like, I mean, I understand rank matters and rank should matter. Don't get me wrong, but
Now, when you're making decisions, I mean, when you're making decisions that really impact the force that way.
Yeah.
Well, maybe you should have a subject matter expert.
Yeah, and then sometimes the staff does all the work, and the 3-star still got the decision. He's going to say, stamp. This is what I want anyway.
Right.
And that's just the way it works, and that's okay. But at least they've got the background information on everything.
Was this 2015?
This was 16.
Oh, 16. Okay.
No, this was 2015. You're right. I went to NGB in July of 2015.
Okay.
Yeah, so in 2015, through the following early summer, I'm doing National Guard drill.
Wow.
Now I do this until, and I'm getting better at it as I go, because you start to really learn some depth on these programs that you're trying to represent in these meetings every day. So it was good from that standpoint. I got smarter as I went. I always said, you got to go through a full business cycle to understand a business. So if I could have stayed there for a couple of years, I would have been really smart at this.
That had to be frustrating too, because wherever you are, you want to train that next person taking over for you, or at least give them the information. But you're just on a whirlwind from get-go.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And about the time you get comfortable, it's time to go.
It's time to go. And I had a buddy at the Pentagon, and I was, I wasn't working there yet. I was still at Guard Bureau, but I'd go to lunch in the executive dining room with him because it was kind of cool. He was a 2-star when I was a 1-star. Classmate of mine at West Point.
Okay.
So I had this extra little behind-the-scenes group of friends that I could tap into because I went to West Point. Yeah. And these are active duty Army officers.
All ring knockers.
They're sprinkled into the Pentagon.
Yeah,
so I'm not just your typical guard guy showing up for these meetings. I'm having lunch with my classmate from 27 years ago.
Yeah.
And he's the G8 of the Army. So I'm talking to him about force structure and bill pairs, and I'm having lunch with him, and so I'm getting the behind the scenes poop on all this stuff.
That's cool.
Really helpful, actually.
Yeah.
Really helpful. So, but this guy, John Ferrari, great guy, really intelligent guy. He'd been in the job for 3 years.
Oh.
I mean, he knew it backwards and forwards.
Sure.
I'm the new guy going, what the heck? What does this mean? What does this mean? So it was really valuable to do.
Did you guys wear your rings?
That. No.
Were you in B's the whole time?
No.
Class B's?
Yeah, we were in Class B's always at the Pentagon. I don't remember a day that I wore BDUs or ACUs at the.
Yeah, right.
It was always Class B's, which I get it. It's the headquarters of the Army. Yeah. I mean the military. So I was good with that. No problem.
A lot of cleaning bills.
So I did that. I did that for about a year, and then my boss comes to me one day, out of the blue, and says, "Hey, Chris, I need to ask you a favor. The guy who's working for General Anderson, who's the Army G3, General Joe Anderson. I don't know if you know that name, but a really good man. He was a real good warrior. Great reputation. He's the Army G3, and the Academy sent over a new general officer, a 1-star, to work on the G3 staff. So it's the Army staff, not Guard staff, the Army staff, and helping with mobilization and training oversight and blah, blah, blah. They said, Chris, this guy's not working out.
Oh.
So, it's embarrassing for the Guard. It's like, hey, we got this general officer over there. It's just not working.
Yeah.
So Academy said, hey, Chris, I know you weren't planning to come work at the Pentagon because that's a grind. It's even more of a grind than NGB, which is a grind. And he said, would you be willing to do it? I said, of course I will. I mean, of course, sir.
Yeah, sure.
Of course I'm going to do it. So surprise, surprise, now I'm working on the Army staff.
Wow.
Which was fascinating.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, in some ways it's certainly a lateral move for me.
Yeah.
But in terms of understanding the Army, it was a great step up for me.
Right.
Because now I had understood a year in the Guard Bureau and like how that thing works with fighting with the Army, coordinating with the Army, not always fighting with the Army. I don't mean that by any means, because it was a good relationship. And, you know, the Chief of Staff of the Army wants the Guard to succeed. So it's not like they don't like the Guard. They know they need the Guard. So, but it's always that tension, right?
Yeah.
But now I'm in the Army. I'm on the Army staff representing strictly Army issues.
What was your position?
I was the Deputy Director of Operations for the DAMO-OD. So the 2-star that works for the 3-star. I know it's confusing probably for your listeners because it's just, but now we're in the Pentagon. There's a lot of general officers in the Pentagon. So the Army G3 is a 3-star. The Chief of Staff of the Army. And right now, it was General Milley. Your listeners will remember that name. It's now Randy George. Randy George is a West Point class of 88. You're behind me.
No kidding.
Yeah. So I got to know him when I was at Guard Bureau, actually.
Wow.
Because he was in the Army G3. So we were back and forth in meetings together. He's the Army G3. I'm representing General Academy, and the Guard is kind of the G3 guy. Yeah. So we were in meetings. Randy George and I know each other pretty well, which is cool. So anyway, back to my point. So the Chief of Staff of the Army is a 4-star. His primary staff officers are 3-stars. So the Army G3 is a 3-star.
Yeah.
General Anderson. He's got like 4 2-stars that are his deputies in these different broad programs. Because I want you to think about what the Army G3 is now managing. I mean, they're managing.
That's a lot.
The operational Army. So it's future force structure stuff.
Yeah.
It's budgeting stuff to go into the POM cycle. That's a whole nother monster for budgeting forecasts and all that. Yeah. It's the operations side, which I was in. So I was the deputy to the 2-star.
Okay.
That worked for General Anderson.
Was that a Guard billet?
It was informally a Guard billet.
Oh, okay.
But again, you're not representing the Guard. You're just...
Right.
It's really a developmental
That's what I'm saying.
assignment.
They have a Guard billet just for representation.
They have some Guard billets sprinkled across the Army.
Yeah.
This was one of them. Really, it's a reserve billet. Guard or reserve.
It was so. Well, an AGR billet, so I guess we should say.
So it turned out that I went to do my boss a favor and kind of, put the finger in the dike a little bit, but it turned out to be a great assignment for me and very interesting. A little bit of the fire hose again, because now you're up a level with all of these programs that the Army's doing.
Oh, and much more visible.
You're 2 months into the job and it's like, hey, Chris, General Pyatt, Walt Pyatt, who's still there. He's actually he's now a 3-star and he's the director of the Army staff. So he's the Chief of Staff's Chief of Staff to make it sound silly, but it's not silly. It's a real important job. So Walt Pyatt was the 2-star DAMO-OD Army G35 guy that I worked for. Great guy. Really smart. Good background. Made me feel welcome on the team right away. Just part of the team. Mm-hmm. And I'm his only general officer, subordinate. So I have to go to a lot of meetings because, just like I said, there's 100 GOSCs going on, general officer steering committees across the Pentagon every day.
Right.
And you have to have a general officer to go to these things to have your voice heard. Same thing.
Yeah.
So I'm carrying the water for the Army G3, General Anderson, at a lot of meetings around the Pentagon on force structure, mobilization, readiness issues. How are we going to do the cycle management to generate readiness across the training cycle? Trade-offs with the Guard, fighting for force structure and manning. So I'm in the whole arena with this.
Did that get easier or harder?
It got easier because I got to know more. I learned more.
Oh, okay.
It got easier only because my knowledge base is increasing with every month.
Yeah.
Because I'm getting more exposure. And actually, if you could have planned it, I'd plan it this way in the future: is go to Guard Bureau, interface with the Army every day, representing the Guard, then go to the Army G3, because now you totally understand that relationship, and now you're looking at the broader Army issues,
right?
And now you're fighting with the other staff and other services for resources, manning, funding, and a lot of it's just the internal challenges of planning rotations and force structure changes and budget changes drive force structure changes. How do we share the pain across the Army? How do we? It's all that kind of stuff that the staff has to chew on all the time.
Do you ever find yourself at a certain point in time, it's like, geez, I wish I could just go fly again?
Yeah, I mean, you do have those days of, God, man, now my life used to be kind of simple in a weird way.
Yeah.
But intellectually, it's really interesting because you're seeing how the entire Army thinks, plans, resources, prioritizes. You're right there. You are literally behind the little curtain with the Wizard of Oz. You see it all.
Wow.
You see how the sausage is made. Sometimes it's not so comfortable.
Yeah.
But sometimes it gives you a good feeling, like there's a lot of good work going on.
Well, sure.
But you see it all. So I love that. We first, Afghanistan's going on pretty hard right at this point. This is 2016.
Yeah.
So obviously Iraq is done, theoretically. It was done in 11. It didn't end up done, but Afghanistan's going hard. So, here I am going to this is a DAMO-OD working group on how to solve the counter UAS problem.
Excuse me.
How to solve the counter UAS problem. So, 1 week I'm in a meeting because drones are now appearing in Afghanistan. It's kind of the first time they've seen these things. Right. They're flying into FOBs. They're doing damage. It's like, okay, the next week I'm literally in the Pentagon with Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, civilian, deputy secretaries of blah, blah, blah. And we're talking about, okay, how are we going to solve this counter UAS problem?
Oh,
these are real working groups.
Yeah.
And, how are we going to do this for Afghanistan in 2 months? I mean,
they've war gamed it, right?
These are big, but these are big national level problems. And all of a sudden I've got a seat at the table on behalf of the Army. It's just cool.
Yeah.
It's really cool, actually.
Yeah, that's pretty.
Or how do we all of a sudden get 300,000 AK-47s, and ship those? These are all fascinating problems.
Right.
Trust me.
Well, I feel a little bad hearing you talk about the inner workings of it. And when you get a story that bubbles up, say a few weeks ago, they had a story where they had done a study at this one transfer station in Poland, basically identifying that, hey, there's not a lot of accountability of this equipment that we're giving that's being pushed over to Ukraine or whoever.
Yeah.
That the accountability is just like, people are pilfering this stuff and nobody knows where it's going. So when you get down from that level up to where you were working on the decisions, yes, we're going to send this package here. Man, that's a lot of levels. That's a lot of work. That's
a lot.
Crazy. And so you get that story, and that's going to generate,
Yeah.
backlash up there, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's right. It's a challenging problem. There's always going to be risk transferring weapons and supplies across borders.
And sometimes it's risk you don't see downstream.
Yeah, it's always going to be.
You do the best you can with those plans, and that's about it.
That's right. I do have one story I'll tell you, which it's almost a comedy, but it was a costly comedy. I'm an aviator, so I understand aviation. I understand all the work that goes into maintaining helicopters.
Right. And
so I'm sitting down with my boss one day, and we're kind of prepping for a meeting that I'm representing him. This is the 3-star now. This is the G3 of the Army, and it's a project to get the Afghanistan Air Force brand new Black Hawk helicopters.
Oh.
Brand new, I think they were Mike models at the time. Brand new, $30 million a piece.
Wow.
Factory smell complete, Black Hawks. The kind I would have died for as a commander.
Really?
So we're going to send, I forget the exact amount, but it's like 30 of them. They're $30 million a piece.
Yeah.
Don't quote me exactly on the numbers. And I'm sitting with my boss, and I'm just going, sir, this is a bad idea. This is a bad idea. I'll tell you how this is going to end. These things are going to be destroyed and fall in disrepair, and they're going to be hangar queens before you know it, and we're going to lose $30 million per airframe because they're just going to be neglected.
Yeah.
I've seen aviation maintenance in the Middle East, and it's not always in the best shape. They don't have the programs and resources and the disciplined maintenance programs that we have.
You mean by other countries doing it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've seen it in other Middle Eastern countries who will remain nameless. But I said this to my boss. It's like, sir, I mean, this is a really dumb idea. I know exactly how this is going to end. It's a total waste of taxpayer money. And General Anderson's not stupid. He's smarter than I am. He's been around. He's basically, and I'm paraphrasing, he's kind of like, I know, Chris. I know. Just kind of like, he didn't say this, but it's kind of like, just shut up and color. The decision was made.
Yeah, it's already
made by, some ambassador, maybe some civilian high up in the Pentagon leadership. Yeah. And it's a done deal. And we're just sort of staffing it to add validity to it. Yeah. Even though I won't speak for my boss, but I know it's going to be a disaster and a total waste of money. I can't stop it. I'm a general officer in the Army working in the Pentagon. I can't stop it. No. So that's frustrating. Sure. And of course, it did end just the way I predicted.
Did it
total
really?
Disaster. Yeah.
And we did it.
Those are part of the Blackhawks that the Taliban ended up with.
Oh.
Yeah, that's part of the gift we gave them.
I'm sure they were kind of disappointed. They're like, oh, these are all
they're all
broken down anyway.
Yeah, we can sell some of the parts. But so there's some bad stories like that that you just kind of like, the momentum.
Especially when you see it coming.
Yeah, you see it coming.
Can't stop it.
And, nobody cares. I'm a 1-star general in the Pentagon. This thing's already been decided. Yeah. But they're going through all the motions of staffing when, I can't be the one that says, nope, bad idea.
Right.
We're not doing this. Ain't going to happen.
Well, it was interesting to see that iteration of the M1s that we wanted to give to Ukraine. Yeah. Because when that decision was made, then somebody came out and goes, we don't have them. Yeah. Yeah. We either got to build them or we got to give them old ones.
That's true. Yeah.
I think they ended up giving them old ones.
Well, we have stockpile stuff. You know that.
Right.
So,
right. But I think the initial one was, we're going to build new ones and send them. And somebody was like, that's going to take 2 years.
Right. Yeah. Our production capability has worried me for a while. And I think even the naysayers on Ukraine and aid to Ukraine, which I am not one, I'm a big believer in Ukraine assistance. Because when I can degrade my enemy at pennies on the dollar, I'll take that any day. Sure. But besides that, even if you're a naysayer on aid to Ukraine, you have to acknowledge the benefit of the wake-up call for the defense industry and our production lines. Yeah. Everything from 155 ammo to precision-guided munitions and ATACMS, et cetera, et cetera. That is a real weakness of the United States.
Javelins, Stingers, we don't have them.
Yep. So there is a lot of good that came out of this wake-up call in trying to supply weapons to Ukraine.
I agree.
Despite how you feel about, a checkbook.
No, because for 20 years we fought an insurgent war.
That's
we didn't need it.
That's right. And who is our threat now?
Everybody but Israel.
It's people that, it's one nation in particular that really knows how to produce now. And America isn't that great at mass production anymore. So that worries me.
Not right now, yeah.
It worries me. So anyway, that's an aside. But anyway, so I'm in the Pentagon. I have some sad stories like that are almost comedies, but a lot of great stories of good things that I was able to just be a part of. Not in any way like the decisive guy, because I'm pretty low on the totem pole now, but I'm still a general officer. So I got a seat at the table. Yeah. And I'm helping shape certain things within my authority. And I mean, I got to sit in the tank, representing the Army in the tank.
What's the tank?
The tank is where the chairman sits with the services when they have those meetings that are like, hey, the president wants options. What do we do? I mean, it's like, that's the tank. Wow. I got to sit in the tank. I mean, it wasn't one of those meetings where I wouldn't have been the Army representative in the tank. But it's still just being there during some cool issue that they were chewing on. And I was representing
That's pretty
the
neat.
Army. Yeah. I got to brief Congress. I got to brief members of the Senate Armed Services Committee on specific Army readiness issues. I briefed the Secretary of the Army on what the Army's doing around the world. I mean, it was really cool to have a seat at that table at that level and understand how the Army thinks resources, makes decisions, prioritizes. That was priceless.
With your friend from West Point.
Yeah.
Did you ever have just a lunch or a beer and go, can you believe what we're doing right now?
Yeah, we did. We did. But he was a little more used to it because he'd been there for so long. It wasn't like...
Oh, yeah, right.
It wasn't like, the Dorothy and Wizard of Oz. For me, it's like, I'm not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did talk about that too, because it's just cool to be at that level.
How long did you stay in that assignment?
I was there for a little over a year, because my time at NGB was supposed to be 2 years.
Oh, so you finished
General
it out
Academy said,
I got you.
I kind of promised you'd only have to be here for 2 years. I mean, my family was in Colorado.
Right.
My wife was, so I come right back from Bosnia.
So you're going like your third year.
Yeah, I'm like on year 3 of not being with my wife. So, she could have lived with me. So it's not the Army's fault.
Right.
But she wasn't gonna. We had kids here, finishing up school.
Well, I'd imagine you get into a rhythm, but over time, it's like...
Yeah, I mean, after 3 years, it's kind of like, okay. And this is my transition, actually, to my next job is, hey, boss, it's time for me to go back to Colorado.
Yeah.
Is there a possibility I could maybe find a general officer job in Colorado? And he did. He did me a solid. So I transferred to NorthCom.
Oh, okay.
So he really did help me out. So he transferred me. So I transferred to NorthCom.
Is that building 2 or building 3 or which building is that?
Oh man, I think it's building 2. You probably stumped me now because it's
because 1 I think was the space.
It's been 5 years.
Yeah,
but I think it was
but,
building 2
okay.
actually. Yeah, but anyway, the headquarters building.
Yeah.
NorthCom headquarters building. I commuted from here, from this house.
I did that for 3 years.
Yeah,
too,
so it was still a bitch of a commute, but.
Yeah.
Well, in the winter especially, but
83.
But I did it.
83 is not a fun drive. So.
Yeah, but I did it, and it was fine. I'd rather do that than live away from my wife. So,
absolutely.
So we did that, and I was the deputy director of ops. Again, I'm an ops guy, so I kept my eye on. Well, I was in charge of certain programs for my 2-star, because the primary staff officers at a COCOM are 2 stars. So this is a COCOM, NorthCom. And, as you know, it's got the domestic support mission, which is a big part of what they do. But it's also got a warfighting mission, defending the United States from missile attack, airplanes, ships, ground invasion. I mean, this is the combatant command of North America.
Right.
So there's always something going on at NorthCom, always. This is where Operation Noble Eagle, after 9/11, scrambling fighters. They go through lots of exercises and scenarios on different airplanes doing this, that, and the other. I can't talk about.
No, of course not.
I can't talk about the missile defense stuff much. Just to say that was my primary portfolio.
Oh, it was.
So that was interesting. Yeah, that was interesting, and I'll never forget what I learned doing that, but that's the part I can't really talk about.
Yeah, right.
Unfortunately, but it took a lot of my time, and then I did cyber, which
was the beginnings of cyber.
Yeah, it was the beginnings of cyber. I mean, obviously we had cyber before that, but it was really because this is 2017.
We had cyber, but not established as a formal.
That's right. It was not even
job.
It wasn't even a branch in the Army until 2015 or so.
Yeah,
I think it became a branch.
It was that
might have been 2016
yeah.
actually. My son actually branched infantry out of West Point, and he graduated in 14. Cyber was not a branch, and then he finished his IOBC, his basic course down at Fort Benning, and then it became a branch, and he branch transferred and got it. So.
Well, they were so desperate for anybody.
He was an IT guy, so I mean, he's a good fit actually.
Yeah, that was perfect.
But he drank the Kool-Aid at West Point, so he went to infantry, which is good. I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. But he got in touch with his inner dork, and it's much better for him.
Oh, absolutely.
Much better for him. He's really good at it.
Yeah.
So happy that he did that. But anyway, back to the point. So I did the cyber portfolio. I did the missile defense. I did quite a few other programs that I can't talk about.
Of course.
And I didn't do a lot of the DISCA stuff. That was a different branch in the
Yeah.
in the 3, which is fine because that's a big mouthful right there too.
Sure.
Because DISCA's defense support to civil authorities is such a big part of what Northcom does.
Yeah.
Disaster response, supporting FEMA
It's
primarily.
just crazy that you had that same experience.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, doing that before, that's wild.
Yeah, I got lucky that they never tried to put my square peg in a round hole. I mean, I was always an
Yeah,
operations
that's true.
guy.
Yeah.
So I understood training, I understood operations, I understood deployments. And that cycle of readiness
right,
and
right.
all that goes into that. That was always in my wheelhouse. So I was so happy. Lots of officers have to transition from operations to like acquisition.
The whole
major.
branch detail thing, I feel bad for those guys.
Yeah, I know. So I never had to do that, which was kind of a luxury for me. I guess you could say it didn't broaden my horizons, but that's okay.
Yeah.
It kept me in something I was pretty comfortable in. So Northcom was interesting, fulfilling. My only time in a combatant command.
Yeah.
So I actually got to serve in a combatant command.
That's pretty wild. Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah.
For just career fulfillment, I guess, seeing how the Army works, right, at different levels. So I kind of did it.
Well, you couldn't have mapped that career out.
No.
Especially when you got guard, you're like, guard is here, guard
Yeah.
is here, guard
It's
is
so,
there. It's wild.
It's funny because I talked
Which
to-
is a testament to your performance.
Well, of course, there's part of that, but I got lucky too. Honestly, you know how it works. You're right place, right time,
right.
and of course, right skill set. You can't self-eliminate, right?
Right.
But I got lucky with timing, and yes, I really, and one good thing leads to another. So, I told you my
Hopefully,
deployment.
yeah.
My deployment was incredible.
Yeah.
That really created opportunities.
You think that was
Of course it did.
the thing that really set all the rest of your career in motion?
This was the largest deployment of Colorado Guardsmen since World War II.
That's
It
amazing.
was the first ever combat aviation brigade ever to go in the Guard.
Yeah.
It was a mission that nobody ever would have guessed. My mission set with General McChrystal's guys.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody ever would have guessed that would go to a Guard unit.
Well, there is all those things about fortune, right? Right place, right time with the right instrument.
Yeah, I'm not stupid.
But you still had to do it.
I'm not stupid.
You still had to get them through successfully.
Yep, I know that.
Sounds like you
I know
did.
I was fortunate, and luckily we were prepared for it.
Right, and you're a humble guy, and you'll never say it's
Nope.
because of the job you did.
Nope.
But to all of us out there, is like you can still be presented with the situation and not.
Yeah, people
come
can
through
really
it,
screw it up.
right?
I've
So-
seen people screw it up.
So I'm honored to be talking with you because of all those experiences, because of what you did in all those experiences. So I look
Marty,
up to an officer like yourself.
Marty, I appreciate that, but really, it's you would have done the same thing. Just your career presents different things.
It does, yeah.
And you
it
go
does.
with it, or there's an off ramp that you take because it's the right thing. It's just the way it is.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can go all over the place. I mean,
It can go all over the place.
my friend who was in Vietnam, he was like, I wish I hadn't gone. And I was like, yeah, but my hat's off to you. He goes, you can have that.
Yeah.
So
exactly.
you have all those different
Yeah.
responses too.
That's right.
So,
And, back to your initial point, it was a very weird and wonderful career. I mean, I can't believe you couldn't map this thing out. Like if you started and said,
right.
let's create this really cool career for a commissioned officer coming out of West Point,
sure.
but the Army's going to draw down. We're going to get a peace dividend. And he's going to go from active duty Army to the IRR.
Yeah.
To
Right.
the traditional
That's right.
Guard.
You did go IRR.
Yep,
right?
he's going to be a traditional guardsman for 7 years and do all that, start a business and start a family. And then we're going to bring him back and become an AGR.
Crazy.
And, for a little while, he's going to be a technician, a federal technician. Then he's going to be an AGR.
Yeah.
And then we're going to call him up to, we're going to give him a battalion command and go to war in a major operation. I mean, it's just one of those things. It's like, wow, one thing led to another. You couldn't script this thing.
I feel bad for the 214 guys who have to go, Okay, how many points did he get for this year? How many did he get for this year?
Yeah, it was a little complicated math. Yeah. Well, I had 20. I retired with 28 or 29 years of. No, it was 30. I retired with 31 years of service.
Right.
The numbers crunched down for full-time years that
Yeah.
actually count for
Yeah,
your
yeah.
retirement pay.
Yeah.
24.5.
Okay. Well,
So I mean, yeah,
pretty
the
good.
math was weird,
yeah.
but yeah, it's fine with me. I'm happy. I'm happy. But yeah, 31 years became 20.
Did you retire out of Northcom?
I did. Yep, that was
What-
my last assignment
In what year?
in 2018.
So how? Okay, let's finish it out with
Okay.
how did it come about to you finally, really, truly retiring this time?
Okay. So part of the deal with General Cademy sending me back to Colorado
Uh-huh.
out of the Pentagon was I had an opportunity to compete for the 2-star tag position in Colorado.
What's the tag?
The tag it's TAG, the Adjutant General.
Oh,
So it's
okay.
an acronym.
Okay.
Every state has a tag. So the tag is the sort of the commander of all guard forces, Army and Air,
Oh,
in every state and territory.
oh, geez.
So they work for the governor, and they are the governor's adjutant general.
Yeah.
That's why the word tag. But every state has one, and they.
Adjutant General. That
Yeah,
seems,
Adjutant General.
That seems a weird title.
I think it's all old American history that just carries forward.
okay.
You know,
Yeah,
it's like
yeah.
the adjutant general worked for the governor
Makes sense.
to get the First Continental Brigade ready to.
Who
for
was really
service
a
and-
general when they made up the
yeah,
title.
That's
so,
right. I mean,
yeah.
they were really the general, and they were the adjutant
Yeah.
because they worked for the political leader.
Okay.
And they got the militia ready, and I mean, it's a great history.
Yeah, because if you say it now, you're like, AG? Who wants to go AG?
Right.
Yeah,
It's
wait,
not.
what's
It's not AG. It's really the military officer
Yeah.
responsible for basically the readiness and response of all forces in the
That's
state.
pretty neat.
Yeah, it's really neat because state emergencies, they're on them
Yeah.
every day, every week, every hurricane season, whatever.
Sounds like you'd be just
They're
as
always,
busy
yeah,
as
they're
everything
always
else, right?
doing stuff.
Especially with the governor on your line.
Yeah, and then you have to make sure your units are ready to mobilize and not embarrass the state.
It's a
They
lot of
gotta be ready
trips
to go.
all over the state.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, it's a big job. It's a great job. I had a chance to compete because my adjutant general who sent me to Guard Bureau, the guy I told you was on the plane with General Grass.
Oh, yeah.
and said,
Yeah.
"You ready to lose this officer?" So he served a long time. He served 8 or 11 years.
Wow.
It's a long time. So he finally retired, and I was like, "Hey, I got a chance.
Oh, yeah.
I got a chance to compete to be the adjutant general in Colorado." Now, for General Cademy, that's a great thing. I know Petty. I helped mentor him.
That's right.
Now, if he could go to Colorado and become the tag, that's a win-win deal.
Yeah.
Because the tags and the director of the Army Guard have a great relationship. It's really important because all the
Absolutely.
policy stuff, you want to align the governors, you want to align your congressional delegation, and you want to align the staff.
And if you all like each other, it
If
makes it
you
a
all
lot
like
easier.
each other and
Yeah.
you're all not in agreement, it's a lot easier. So that was a good thing for General Cademy too. She's like, "Yeah, I'm sending you to Colorado. You go to Northcom, be the deputy G3." Or
Oh, this
deputy
was his
J-
plan all the way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I didn't get the job. It went to an Air Force officer.
Okay.
Hey, it was Governor Hickenlooper, and
yeah.
and it was professional. It was fine.
Sure.
He did interview. It came down to just him and me. They did all the eliminations and all that. One Army, one Air. It's always been Air in Colorado, so it's getting frustrating
Yeah.
because the Air guys really they've had somewhat of a lock on that. And this guy's father was a 4-star general, and he had all the pedigree. I'm not complaining because Mike Lowe got the job,
Yeah.
and he's a good officer. And right now he's actually the director of the Air Guard in D.C.
Oh, no kidding.
So he's Cadevy's like counterpart, and the new guy,
Yeah.
Cadevy's not there. So I mean, obviously he's a good officer. He did well. So I'm not crying in my milk,
No,
But it
of
went
course
to the
not,
Air
of
Force
course
guy,
Right.
not the Army guy. And the Army's really been shut out for a long time. So,
Oh, really?
So that kind of rubbed me the wrong way. But fair and square, no problem.
Yeah.
And General Lowe, again, good man, and doing a good job. Did a good job, and now doing a good job in D.C. So obviously he was a good guy to get the job. Anyway, but that was where I said, I'm done. I'm done.
Well, where else were you going to go?
Where I would have had to go. I could have gone back to D.C.
Oh, yeah.
I could have pinned on my second star. I already was approved by Congress for a second star.
Oh, no kidding.
So I officially,
Wow.
could. All I had to do is go back to D.C., get that job on the staff somewhere. But come on, all my wife has been through.
Did your wife have a little elbow in the ribs on that one?
She said, Chris, you can go do it. I mean, hey, I'm proud of you. You're doing great stuff, but I'm not going back. I'm not going to D.C.
Yeah.
So you're going alone. And she didn't mean that with malice. She just said,
no,
I love you. Go do it. We'll be fine.
Well, and you've been together long enough that you're like.
Yeah. But, it's, come on, I've put her through. I mean, I figured I was gone from her for probably almost 7 years.
That's a lot.
Right.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. So I wasn't going to do it anymore. And honestly, some of the general officer stuff at that level, what I was seeing, because I wasn't going to command anything anymore.
Right.
You're carrying a lot of water for a lot of people. And it's okay. It needs to be done. But it wasn't quite as invigorating as commanding, making a difference, deploying, doing those kind of things. You're really, you're trying to do the policy and the programming and the resourcing and the trading risk and, benefit between competing interests. And it's not as fulfilling. Let's just put it that way for me.
And if it's not as fulfilling, it's not motivating.
Right. So, don't get me wrong, Marty. I really enjoyed my general officer time, and I'm really blessed that I got to do it because I got to see and learn and do those things. But it was okay. I was done.
Yeah.
I was done.
Yeah.
The chasing a second star really didn't mean that much to me, honestly.
Yeah.
I got to be honest.
Well, you wouldn't have been true to yourself.
Right. And I love this house. I love my neighborhood.
Enjoy it. Finally,
I worked hard to build a family and a wife that's wonderful, and
Tell me about your retirement ceremony.
Well, it was really nice. So Northcom had a little one for me, which was very cool. They actually, I forget the young major female who put it together. She did such a great job. And she did something that, grab that envelope right there, that big, thick white one. See that on the shelf there?
This one?
Yeah, I want to show you something. I know your listeners won't be able to see it, but she took the time to do this for me. I'll find her name, but I probably won't find it in time. So this is a computer signature, so that one, I won't embarrass him before your audience. But, you know this tradition of what I'm showing you.
Oh, the letters. Yeah.
George Bush. Great. Hand signed. George Bush. I am just...
What year was this? Did you retire?
This was 2018.
Okay.
Jimmy Carter.
Wow.
Hand signed.
Wow.
This young lady, she's mother of probably three kids. Bill Clinton. Hand signed.
Jefferson.
These are not computer generated.
Yeah.
I was so impressed with this. This is Northcom. This is staff work. The other George Bush.
Yeah. George Bush the senior.
Can you believe this?
That's wonderful.
Can you believe this? I got to get these framed. Governor Hickenlooper. Anyway, that's so cool.
No,
it's
those
like
are
5 presidents. Wait. 4 past presidents.
That's amazing.
Wrote a letter. The letter's probably pretty standard.
Yeah.
But hand signed.
Right.
To say, General Petty, thanks for your service. We, really appreciate it on behalf of the nation. Blah blah blah. Hand signed by a former president.
2018.
2018.
And you got them just shoved into an envelope, sir?
Yeah, shoved them into an envelope. Now they won't stay in an envelope forever because they're so cool.
It's 5 years ago. I know. It's time to get off it now. Yeah.
I know. Notice I have them in a protected envelope.
Fair enough.
I didn't know where they were on the shelf.
Well, that's true. That's half the battle, right? To know where they are.
You're right. They should not be sitting in an envelope, but it all in due time. What were we talking about? Oh,
the retirement that they put together at Northcom.
So Northcom did a nice one, but it's down in Colorado Springs. I don't have family down there or anything.
Sure.
So my wife came. One of my kids, I think, showed up because he's local, and the staff was there, and it was a really nice little professional ceremony. and the certificates and all that. And then the Colorado Guard did a really nice one for me. The full pomp and circumstance,
Oh, did
auditorium,
they really? Oh, nice.
helicopters in the background.
Did you do it at Buckley?
Yeah, we did it
Nice.
in the big hangar
Yeah,
at
yeah.
the support facility out there. So there's a Black Hawk and a Chinook all lined up, flags, and a couple of nice speeches. And my wife got to give a speech. How often does a wife get up during a retirement ceremony?
I've only seen it a couple times, but it's
It's
usually
rare.
to just say a zinger.
It's
you know?
rare. And my wife got up there and she gave like a 10-minute speech,
No
and
kidding.
it was like
Whoa.
awesome.
Did you know she was going to do it?
Yeah, I did
But
know
you didn't know what she
going
was
to do
gonna
it.
say.
Nope, because she didn't really want me to rehearse with her because she was like
Good.
self-conscious about it. And she got up there and just hit it out of the park. And I was like,
Oh,
holy crap. It was so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll always remember that. And just my kids were all there. Neighbors who we've been friends with for decades came. It was just so cool.
Yeah.
So cool.
Now, does every general get a flag, or only if they're in certain positions?
Nope. Every general gets a flag. Every general gets a flag. And every general gets a pistol.
Wow.
Yeah, totally cool tradition that has carried
Really?
on. Now you have to buy it when you leave. You don't.
Yeah.
The government doesn't give it to you, but it's your pistol. So when you're a general officer, they send you a pistol.
What kind of pistol?
It's the old M9. It's the Beretta.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, which you and I, that's what we shot, right? For most
sure.
of our lives.
Sure.
I know they've changed now, but I chose the Beretta. They said,
okay.
you could wait because the Army's developing a new pistol. I'm like, no way, man. I
Yeah.
want the Beretta. That's what
I didn't know if they
qualified
give you
with.
an old Cav pistol
no.
or 1911 or something.
No, it's the service
I gotcha.
pistol at the time.
Wow.
But it's got your own serial number on it. You get a special certificate. They just send it to you.
That's
They
pretty
literally
cool.
send it to you in the mail.
Yeah.
And you sign, receipt of whatever. And they give you magazines and a holster and everything. And then when you retire, you buy it. I don't know of a general that wouldn't buy their pistol.
Well, of course not.
Yeah.
Right.
So, of course, I bought mine. And, I mean, how cool is that?
That's pretty neat.
Yeah. So, generals get a flag that you take with you when you leave and your service pistol, your sidearm.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Cool.
Yeah.
Some
absolutely
traditions
cool.
are still alive.
That's pretty neat.
I'm sure that dates back to like the Civil War. Just so cool. Yeah, I was surprised to learn that one.
Did we get it all?
I think we got it all. It was a wonderful career. It was challenging, demanding, and
Wow.
very, very fulfilling. And, I do think I was very blessed. I told you my little war stories in Iraq and stuff. And, I didn't lose a soldier.
That's
And
amazing.
all that
Yeah.
complexity and all that risk and all the enemy activity, and I didn't even have to face the death of a soldier. Someone was looking out for me. I know my whole career.
That's
someone
very
was
blessed.
looking out for
Yeah.
me,
Yeah.
and it wasn't a man. It was
There are
it
enough
was-
commanders who
Yep.
can't say that,
Yeah.
unfortunately.
And but just reaffirmed my faith in God and just everything. The whole journey was wonderful.
I appreciate you giving me your story because there were things that I didn't know. Because when you see it, even if you're in, there's still intricacies that you don't know.
Yeah.
And but your enthusiasm about it is just, this is what young officers should come and listen to.
Well,
You know,
it'd be nice if they did, because
maybe 4 episodes in an hour, maybe too much. If we
Yeah.
could condense it into 15-second TikTok clicks, maybe they could.
Yeah, well, maybe someday you'll want to interview me just like about leadership lessons.
I want to.
Because it's a fascinating topic. And as I told you a couple times during these interviews, I loved to impart some of that to junior officers.
Well, that's going to be the new series I'm proposing to you.
Yeah.
So hopefully
Yeah,
we
good.
can get that going.
Good, because I really have always been a student of leadership.
Yeah.
I'm fascinated by it. But more importantly, I've seen it work stunningly successful and terribly bad.
Well, those are the ones that you learn from. Right?
Yeah, they are. It is the decisive ingredient in an organization, period.
And that's why there's so many books written about it, because even in the civilian world, it makes that big of a difference.
It does.
My wife is in home health care nurse,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm like, your administration has always sucked. For 20 years, they don't put leaders in those administrators' positions.
Yep.
So it makes a difference wherever you go.
It's so
and the one
decisive.
person who's good at it, you remember for
That's right.
forever.
It's decisive.
Yeah.
And so anyway, it's a great topic, and I've studied it for my whole life. So yeah, I would love to talk about that.
Well, General Chris Petty, retired. I appreciate your story. It's been wonderful talking your career all the way through, and it's been great to know you.
Thanks, Marty. I've really enjoyed it, actually, and thanks for recording it for my own posterity and my children, and maybe my grandchildren might listen to it one day.
I hope so. That's the intent.
And that's pretty cool. So thank you.
Thanks, sir.
On behalf of General Petty, I'd like to thank you for listening today. I hope you enjoyed the show, and if you did, please leave a like and a comment and share the podcast with someone else. And as always, make sure to download the next episode for more service origin stories. So until next time, I change. Whoo! Fall!